All right, so it's that time of year again. Time to set those big, ambitious goals, make some bold plans, and, well, let's be honest, probably fail. We've all been there, right? We start January just full of motivation, only to find ourselves right back in the same old patterns by February. But what if the problem isn't you? What if it's the entire way we approach change? So let's break down where we all seem to go wrong, and more importantly, how to actually get it right.
So get this. Studies show that a staggering 91% of all New Year's resolutions, they just fail. 91%. I mean, that's a huge number, right? And it really suggests there's something fundamentally broken in how we're all thinking about making a change.
And it happens fast. Nearly a quarter of us quit in the very first week alone. But here's the thing. According to the thinker Chris Williamson, whose work we're digging into today, this isn't about you failing. It's about the system failing. So let's talk about a better system.
Okay, so what is that system failure? Well, here's the single biggest mistake pretty much all of us make. We see the new year as this blank slate to just add stuff. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start a business, learn a new language. But we never ever stop to think about what we need to subtract to make space for all that new stuff.
Think about it like this. Your life is a plate at a buffet. Your time, your energy, your focus, it's all finite, just like the space in your stomach. You can't just keep piling more and more food on and expect your stomach to magically get bigger. It doesn't work that way. You got to take something off the plate to make room for something new.
And this really gets to the core principle. In order to pick something up, you have to put something down. You have to work from the assumption that you literally cannot do any more than you are doing right now. So if you want to add a new habit, it's not an expansion pack for your life. It has to be a substitution. It's a trade.
Okay, so that makes sense. But how do you figure out what to trade, what to add, what to subtract? Well, the key isn't just about finding more motivation or hustling harder. It's about structured, brutally honest reflection. And that starts by asking yourself a few, well, pretty uncomfortable questions.
I mean, really, pause and think about this for a second. If your life was a movie and a whole audience of strangers was watching, what obvious thing would they be screaming at the screen for you to do? Leave that job, end that relationship. It's almost always that thing you already know you need to do, but you've just been avoiding. All right, here's the next one. How would you spend your day if your goal, your only goal, was to make your 85-year-old self as miserable as humanly possible? Just picture it, a day designed for maximum, crushing future regret. Now, here's the real question. In what ways are you already doing that? That overlap between those two answers, that's where you need to focus.
Okay, let's try this one. Knowing everything you know right now, all the lessons, all the mistakes, what advice would you give to the you from 12 months ago? Whatever your answer is, that's almost certainly the exact advice you need to be taking right now. See, our biggest problems, they tend to stick around, and this question just shines a massive spotlight right on them. And finally, this one cuts through all the noise, all the little to-do lists. What would have to happen by the end of this year for you to look back and honestly consider it a success? This forces you to distill everything down to the one, maybe two, big things that would genuinely move the needle. The stuff that would make you feel like, yeah, that year was a win.
But what if you do all that? You achieve those big things, and you still feel empty. This is where we get into the real danger. What Williamson calls the tragedy of climbing a huge ladder only to realize it's been leaning against the wrong wall the entire time. He has a term for this, productivity dysmorphia. It's this modern-day curse, especially for high achievers. It's the inability to see your own success, to even acknowledge how much you're actually doing. It's that feeling that you're constantly, perpetually behind. You can have an amazing, productive day, but you don't feel like you won. You just feel like you finally got back to zero.
And this quote nails it. You don't fix internal voids with external accolades. This is what he calls the unteachable lesson. So many of us believe that if we just get the money or the fame or the promotion, that feeling of not enoughness will finally disappear. But the tragic irony is you only learn that it won't after you've already achieved it. And this is why so many of our goals are doomed from the start. We're chasing things society tells us we should want, not the things that will actually make us happy.
So how do we get so off track? How do we end up chasing the wrong things? Well, a lot of the time it's because we trade the things we can't see for the things that other people can.
We sacrifice these hidden metrics, things like our peace of mind, or quality time with family, our own health, for observable ones, right? The fancy job title, the bigger salary, the new car. We take the job that's way more stressful because on paper it looks better. We completely forget that we have to live the stress, not the piece of paper.
There's actually a classic story that just perfectly captures this whole trap. It's called The Parable of the Mexican Fisherman.
So the story goes, a successful American businessman is on vacation in a small Mexican village, and he meets this local fisherman. And the businessman starts giving him advice. You know what you should do? You should get a bigger boat, catch way more fish, then buy more boats, build a whole canning factory. You could be a millionaire. But at every single stage of this grand, complicated plan, the fisherman just asks this one simple question. And then what? The businessman explains the next step. Then you hire a crew. And then what? Then you go public. And then what?
Finally, the businessman is totally exasperated, and he explains the ultimate endgame. The big reward after decades of stress and 16-hour days is so that you can retire, fish a little in the morning, and spend the afternoon with your family. The punchline, of course, is that the fisherman is already living that life. He was at the finish line the whole time.
Okay, so what do we do with all this? How do we apply it? It's about focusing on small habits that have a huge return on investment. Habits that prioritize those hidden, internal metrics of success.
And here's maybe the most important rule for building any new habit. Never miss twice. Forget being perfect. It's not going to happen. But the rule is, you can miss one day. That's just an error. Life happens. But missing 2 days in a row? That's the start of a brand new negative habit. This one rule, all by itself, completely defeats that all-or-nothing thinking that derails so many of us.
So where do you start? Williamson has 3 suggestions that are incredibly simple, but also incredibly powerful. Number 1, no phone in the bedroom at night. Just get it out of there. 2, take a short walk first thing in the morning, ideally outside. And 3, delay your first cup of coffee for about 90 minutes after you wake up. Now, why these 3 specifically? Well, no phone in the bedroom. That dramatically improves your sleep quality. The morning walk gets sunlight in your eyes, which is like the master switch for setting your body's internal clock for the entire day. And delaying that caffeine, that prevents that dreaded afternoon energy crash that so many of us rely on more caffeine to fix. See? Low effort, massive return. Look, at the end of the day, actually changing your life isn't really about hustle and grind. It's about reflection. All of these questions, all of these tools, they're really just designed to create a little bit of silence in your life so you can finally hear what you've been trying so hard to avoid. So let me leave you with this final thought. The answers you're looking for are in the silence you're avoiding. What conversation do you need to have with yourself? The answer just might change your entire year.